So okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some potpourri, some petals,
Ooh.
and I'm just gonna set down a mat just to protect my space. And I like to work on parchment because, when your kind of your wafer and your smart sheets get a little wet, it's nice to have something that's not gonna stick to. So I just put that down. And to start, I guess I should show you where we're headed. I know a lot of people like to see where you're headed first before we just go at it. So
Yeah, that's
um,
great.
these are all the things I've been playing with here. It looks like little a range of different kind of flower petals. And half of these are done with smart sheets, and then the other half are done with wafer paper. And so I feel like you can get a different look with both. I like both of them, but there are some, kind of pros and cons, and working a little bit differently with them depending on which paper you're going to use. So I thought we could go over that. And then I did make these are little scale florals, little wafer paper florals that I ended up making with some of the petals as well. So that's where we're headed.
I love it. And you make them smell like vanilla potpourri, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh, that paper potion smells so good. So let's start with the wafer. Let's do that first. So this is your wafer paper. Of course, there's two sides. There's that little textured side and that smooth side. And so what I've done is I've cut out just some little different petals super randomly. I did not like use a template or anything. I'm just randomly cutting out petal type shapes.
Hey,
It would
Arty,
be cool. Yeah.
can you turn your camera a little bit so that you're taking the part that's furthest away from you and pushing it down and bringing the part in that direction?
That
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, that's good. It's right there. Stop.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, your hands were
Okay,
just a little
good.
bit off, so
Perfect.
this is
Okay.
perfect.
Good, good. I am flying blind, but you're a good wingman. Okay. That was good. I know there are punches, like petal punches that might be really nifty too, but I kind of like how random these are, and depending on how many you'd make, it just hand cutting them will make them look really natural, which is cool. So these are just regular wafer little petals, and just depending on what flower they're from, they'd be a little bit more rounded, maybe even a little frilled on the edge. I really like to use these little cuticle scissors that obviously I don't use them in cuticles. I just use them on things for cookies. They are not multi-purpose. They are just for, wafer paper cutting. And because you can get really little. It just depends on how little you want to work. Because you can definitely do this on cakes, make larger scale petals. But if you're working on cookie, we're talking pretty small scale. So I have some real small petals and some larger ones, real random. I did do quite a bit of experimenting with this, and I found using the rough side up, um, both with the wafer and the smart sheet, I found looked more natural to me, not as shiny when it dries and stuff. So I really like the rough side up. And so we're going to take our magical paper potion. This stuff is so cool.
So
And
what is paper potion? Do you
paper potion is a conditioner. It's like conditioning your hair. It makes your hair look good. This makes your paper look good. It makes it soft, and it makes it where you can work with it. And it's not going to be crispy, crumbly wafer paper. It's going to be nice and workable.
Uh-huh.
Does that work?
That works. That works.
Yeah, and it smells delightful. So I just go over them and I just spray them, not very carefully or evenly. It's pretty foolproof, I found. And so I have a palette here, and this just has food coloring in it, and it's all dried, which I really like to. I prefer to work with dried food coloring. I feel like so little of it goes so far, so I really like to use dried coloring. And these are mostly Wilton Americolor brand, but the brand does not matter a whole lot. Um, where's my water? So I'm going to use water. I paint with water. And I'm going to take a little brush, a couple of brushes here. Of course, these are also brushes that I only use with food. And so let's take this big guy. And so I'm using like a little detail brush. It's not tiny, but it comes to a nice point. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. And hopefully
We
I
can
can
hear
still hear
you
you.
fine, don't worry.
Okay, awesome.
You're doing
Okay,
great.
awesome.
Is everybody's
You
like
just got
intently watching? They're not even talking.
good, good. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little moss green. I love moss green. It's like one of my favorites. I like all the greens. So I'm just gonna take that green where the edge of that petal will be connected to the stamen, right? And that's where the little green part would be. So usually we don't see this part when it's connected to the flower. Let's see a little paper towel here.
Harriet said you could be a hand model.
I have too many freckles for that, that's for sure. And I'm just gonna use a little water to blend that out a bit. So we want that nice green tip. And I think, not all petals have that greenery on it, but I think it really gives it a nice natural look to it. And then this is where you pick the color of your petal. It depends on if you want a super bold, petal or a more natural, I mean, there's flowers come in all kinds of colors. So it just depends on what color you want your petal to be. If you want it more muted, I suggest using a little bit of, so what I'll do is I'll show this, I'll do a muted one on this one. So I'm going to take a little bit of, I think it's like a burgundy pink, so a real bold color. Just going to put a little bit in my mixing part. And you see my mixing section right here?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Kathy asked about the wafer paper, whether with the wafer paper to use alcohol or water for painting. We actually recommend paper potion because it's not water and there's no alcohol in it. But it's
Nice.
what do you think?
So I'm just used to working with water, and I know water and wafer are like, you're looking for maybe a gummy mess if you work with water. But I find when you first spray it with the paper potion, I can still paint on it with water, which is what I'm used to, how that works for me. And so
So
that,
it acts like a barrier almost, so it doesn't melt the wafer?
totally.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild. It's been so fun to play with.
And Cindy wants
So
to know how long that's a question more for me. Yeah, just keep it in a Ziploc bag and it lasts until it smells like bad oil. So there's an expiration date on the package, but that's the best way to go, honestly, because it lasts
is that
longer.
for the wafer?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. So I've mixed that really bold burgundy and I put a little bit of black in it. And that's going to just tone it down, kind of gray down the color a bit so it's not super, super bright. And I like the edges of my petals to be nice and bright. That's going to be my brightest part. So that's where I like to start with my color. Kind of go along the edge of that and pull it towards the center. And as I'm pulling it, it's softening the color naturally because I'm kind of using up my color as I go towards that center. And I'm going to add a little more water to blend it, to soften it a bit. This is so easy. It's kind of embarrassing because it's like it looks good no matter what. There's not a lot of skill that you need. You can add little striations just by kind of dragging it towards the center as well. It's just going to look really like a petal. I mean, really fast. It's going to look like a petal.
Yeah, it's already starting to. I mean, I can see it totally.
Yeah, and it's going to dry and kind of curl just a little bit, which is nice too because petals aren't super flat. With a paper potion, it curls really nicely. Without the paper potion, I'm just going to show you what they look like if I just did it with water. So they curl up, which might be nice if you're looking for like a bougainvillea petal, because that's what they tend to do. They tend to like curl up like that. It's crispy. It's really hard. It's not flexible anymore, but it still looks cool. It looks more like potpourri, like a hard petal. And this is gonna get more, it's gonna dry, but it's gonna keep its shape a little bit better. But you can end up kind of bending it and curling it a bit and shaping it where these are done. They're not movable anymore. This is another one. This is also just with water, but this curled up nicely because I didn't use as much water. So the amount of water can affect it. And then these are the petals I did just a minute ago before the live started. This is also on wafer paper, but this is with the conditioner. This is it totally dry and it's still flexible. It looks like a real petal. I mean, it just looks like I just plucked it right off of a flower, which is really nice. And you can do some shaping and cupping with that.
Emily says she loves your technique because it looks veined. It really does.
Right, and something that I noticed too, because it's like it's so effortless and it already kind of looks like it has these little lines in it. But a part of that is using a parchment paper and noticing if there's any texture to the parchment. I like to work with that. So see how it's going this way. If I turned it that way, the petals would have like ripples going this way because as it dries, it kind of takes on the little bit of texture of the parchment. And I'd rather those ripples go this direction. So that's something to keep in mind as well, just which direction your parchment even might affect your petal. So it's wet right now, but it'll dry, and they peel right off. I did put these in the dehydrator to see if that would work. It dries it out really fast. Like I said, I just made this probably like an hour ago, and they're nice and dry.
Are they crispy at all, or?
They're flexible still.
And so they pretty much stay that way when using it with the paper potion. Even that's wafer, and the paper potion is about it too.
And something I will do if I want it to dry a little bit more in a cup-like shape, I can put it right into this little palette here that has these wells. And if you kind of push it into that when it's a little more wet, it will dry kind of more cupped also, which is fun as well. And that is really simply as that's how you kind of make the wafer paper petals. I haven't built the actual roses with these individual petals like this. I do the actual building of the roses a little bit differently because we're not going to see that green section. We can ignore those and kind of not have to cut out each little individual petal either. So when I build the flower, I do build the flowers out of wafer. I don't do those out of Smartsheet. I kind of played with that a bit and I liked it, but I still have to play with that a little bit more. But let me show you another little way of doing the petals for the actual building of the flowers. But how simple was that for real? I mean, that was like, that was it.
That was actually, it was wonderful. And how real it looks so fast.
Yeah. And some fun other things I wanted to show you. This is also this is one of my wafer paper petals as well. And you see, I'm not sure if you can see this, but I flicked on some black using a toothbrush, and a little bit of black airbrush color. And I just love how realistic that looks as well. Just some of those flowers that have little flecking, either white or black or brown. It looks really, really natural and really pretty.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So Emily wants to know, does the humidity affect the amount I guess she means of water you add? And if so, how you gauge it?
I think humidity affects everything. So yeah, I would think so. I live in a really dry place.
Not
So
today.
I don't have to deal with humidity a whole lot. Not today. Not lately. California is underwater right now.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting because I have only really played with these petals with humidity, the humidity right now. But there is some figuring that out always, the humidity.
Yeah, a lot just depends on the area you're from.
Yeah, and I feel like with wafer, the amount of water, it's going to affect a lot of things, So getting to know how it behaves and just playing with it is huge in my book. It's like that's a huge way to learn how it behaves is just to play with it, right?
Exactly. And Kat says, she made a comment, looks like making petals with wafer paper is much quicker than gum paste. Yes. And they're lighter. Yeah. Wait till you see the smart sheets. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So this is how I build the actual roses. So these are I punched these really fast and they're just actual 1-inch circles because we're working, again, pretty small. I'm a cookie person, so I definitely tend to think small, right? My little canvas is pretty small. I do half of them shiny side up and half of them textured side up because I find they curl a little bit differently depending on which side is up. So let's see here. So I'm just going to put some up, some down.
So Arty, what you mentioned before that our wafer paper is different than others you've tried. In what way?
So I can tell that it's not as fragile, like it's not as crispy. I think a lot of wafer papers are similar, but I just find working with yours is easier. It might be because it's a different grade, because I know there's different grades, but I don't really pay attention to those, but I can definitely tell when I'm working with it, you know?
You know what it is?
So
I know exactly
what
what
is
it
it?
is.
Tell me,
It's,
tell me.
well, it's pretty simple. We do not over order, so product doesn't sit in our warehouse for long.
Oh, okay.
So it's very fresh. It moves fast.
Interesting.
And
That
that's
okay,
just,
I thought it would be like a secret. I thought it was gonna be a
uh,
super secret ingredient,
well, there
or
is
maybe even
vanilla
like,
in it too.
oh,
Did you
really?
smell it or taste it?
Yeah, a little. I smelled it.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of vanilla, and that may have the effect as well. Only our wafer paper in the States has vanilla or that flavoring smell in it.
Okay, interesting. So again, I'm mixing up my color here that I want for my petals. So I'm mixing in my little well here. Pinks, of course, look nice. I did want to see if it would work with a really bold color. And I found with especially the true, bold red, I painted with the Poper Patient. Whoa, paper potion.
It's been
Plus,
called worse.
so the paper potion plus airbrush color, I found that worked really well with if I wanted a true bold color. And I painted both sides of the wafer with that. But if I want a really soft color, just water. And this one, I don't use paper potion because I want it to do that curling. So I'm gonna and I want kind of a range of colors. So whatever comes out, I'm being super careful as you can see as I'm painting these. And as I'm going, you can see my petals are getting, a softer and softer pink because I'm just not reloading my bristles. So I have a nice kind of darkish one all the way till my brush is almost empty. So I'm going to go reload again, do the same thing really carefully. I'm a very particular person. No, I'm not a perfectionist, and that can get. Oh, I don't want them to stick together. That's for sure. Once that happens, I think. No, I'm just doing that one. Once they touch and they're wet, you're kind of you kind of lost that guy because they do like to stick together, which is nice. Which is it's like the kind of the good part about it and the bad part about it.
Yeah.
It sticks to itself.
Now, did you spray that one with paper potion first or no?
No, so these are just water and food color. So these now here, so those were the kind of the smooth side up, and then these are the ones that like the textured side up. And it doesn't take a lot of color for it to get pretty bold. So I'm doing it pretty watercolory soft.
Now, Cindy asked what the difference was between the wafer and the smart sheet. Um,
Yeah.
Wafer paper is much more fragile and it reacts quickly to humidity. And smart sheets really don't. They're more like construction paper. Smart sheets are sugar-free. There's no flavor, whereas wafer paper has that vanilla flavor to it, just a slight one. Wafer paper, it's definitely lighter. I don't remember if I said that, but I haven't eaten dinner yet. What did you find? Like, what were the biggest differences for you on the wafer versus the smart?
I feel like they do totally different things. Like, I feel like some things that I like that the wafer paper does, the smart sheet doesn't do. So it's almost like you kind of got to figure out which one works best for what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the smart sheet, and I'm gonna show you the petals pretty similarly. We do them pretty similarly, but you'll see how different they react and how different they behave.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, It's so the Smart Sheet is quite a bit thicker. It has more of a tooth to it or a texture on one side. That's really similar to, I found, watercolor paper,
Yes, that's a good analogy.
which makes it beautiful to paint on, with the food coloring. So you see how these are really curling up and then these aren't, which I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to take a toothpick here and I'm going to dip it in my water, just the top part. And I can use one of these that I already have here. We'll just use this guy that got all messed up. I'm just gonna wrap it around my wet toothpick, and it'll stick because it likes to stick to wet. So I'm just gonna kind of wrap it around. This is gonna be the center of my rose. And I'm not being super careful again. I just want kind of a
Ooh,
spiral kind of look. That's the center of my rose. It's as simple as that. I wasn't super particular about it, just kind of wrapped it around the toothpick about halfway up. You don't want it to wrap too low because then it'll kind of get really stuck on the toothpick and it'll be harder to get off. I'm just going to brush over a bit with some water on my brush. Make
I
sure
have
it's
never
on.
seen it done this way.
I know because I don't know what I'm doing. I make it up as
No,
it
you
comes
do.
up.
It makes total sense. It makes total sense.
And then I'm going to take another one of my petals. And I especially want to pay attention to the curly ones right now because I like what it's doing, right? It kind of gives this nice natural, kind of a more rustic rose, like a wild little rose growing. And I'm just going to touch it down to that wet petal here about halfway down and kind of wrap that around again. So there's my little bud. And it's really fast to stick to itself. So you see it's already kind of stuck to that center. If you don't think it's stuck quite enough, I'm just going to brush a little more water on there and that'll make it really stick to itself. So again, haven't used any paper potion on any of these little petals. And this is where it becomes a little bit of an art project because you want a balance to the rose, but you don't want like symmetry. You're not looking for a perfectly symmetrical thing. You're looking for something that would grow in nature. And you don't want all the petals to like line up. You want them to be offset. And then I'm going to take another one.
Kathy's
Filling a
asked if you
little.
have to paint both sides. And with the wafer paper, it's see-through, isn't it? For the most part.
I mean, it kind of like dissolve into itself, but as long as it's a sheer color, you won't really notice that difference of the white and the pink as much. Again, if you go for that bolder color, I would paint both sides like I did on this red. So I painted both sides with the color, and that can be a pain, especially with wafer paper, right? So that needed to be with the paper potion so that I could flip it over and it could be a little bit more movable. So it's not as curly as a rose as I'm making here, but it
Right.
still comes out quite nice. And that just makes it more handleable with the paper potion, right?
Handleable, a new word.
Handleable. Malleable. What's the so we're just adding, where I feel like it needs another petal, and we're kind of building it out, just opening this little rose. So simple. As I touch it to the outside, it's really just already sticking to it. I'm not doing much to it to manipulate the shape or anything. It's just kind of doing it.
Yeah, Emily says that she loves the toothpick to start the middle. The way she learned was a bit difficult, but she loves this way. I like it too. It looks so natural. A lot of people build around a ball, like, yeah, they take a little bit of fondant ball, and that's pretty too. They're different,
Yeah. And I don't typically work with fondant, and so that's why I didn't think of fondant necessarily, but I have made toothpick roses, a nice small scale rose for cookies. I think, dealing with a smaller scale can make you think a little differently too, because with fondant, I think it might be just a bigger scale thing. It's nice to build on something bigger, especially with cakes and things like that.
Kat asked, can you airbrush and then cut the paper before it dries? Ooh, won't that be
Oh,
too?
cut it before it dries.
Yeah, I do it the other
I
way.
haven't.
Ooh, no, I
I
would cut
think
it
you could.
afterwards once it dries.
Yeah, I think once it dries, it would be fine. It wouldn't have, and you could do it pretty variegated. You could do the darker side of the paper and then a lighter. I think that would work, right? It wouldn't curl up, so it would be more like our red one, it's a little more straight, which I think is lovely as well. So you see, you're just working with kind of where it looks right to put in there. Um, and just filling it out like that. Just eat, eat, eat. Keep making as big as you want. You could stop anywhere, make a smaller rose or keep, and you kind of decide where you like the wrinkles and not. Like I like that. But if you want a cleaner, kind of look, you'd go with this more smooth side. I like the more rustic, like kind of curled petal look there. I need a little bit more water. I'm gonna add some more water. If it's kind of getting a little too wonky, just add a little more water and it acts as a nice glue. Let's see, where did we go here?
Oh, here's a really good piece of advice. I don't know how it translates into cookie, but it's something that's on our lives a lot. Jessie Ann Riley was the one who spoke about it. She says, if you're doing a flower, unless it's totally botanically correct, and you're in a competition, that's what I'm talking about. You want to say it's your interpretation of. That way, they don't judge you as to whether or not that flower is perfect.
Totally.
So,
yeah.
Can you move the flower into the center? I just realized there you go. Thank you,
getting selfish.
I know, and I didn't even realize it. I'm talking to you and just not even,
So that's it. She's built here. So, and then so once I'm done building the little flower, what I do is I just put my fingers right at the base there at the toothpick, and I just pull up. Poink! There she is.
Oh wow!
Right?
And
then I just set her off to the side to dry. She's going to think about what she's done and sit in time out for a bit, and just kind of dry, right? And then once she's all dry, it is a very crispy thing because there isn't any paper potion in it, but it holds its shape really nice, and it's nice and curly, little cottage kind of looking rose,
I love it. It's kind of vintagey.
Yeah, they look like those like wild bushes that just kind of grow on their own. So that's fun. I did do one with some wafer I just stamped it, did the same thing, but I did not do any water and just built the same way. So instead of, with a color, just a little stamp.
Wait, bring that back. Bring it back. Can you hold it up closer to the camera? And then further away from you. No, further away. Yeah, that way. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So those are stamps?
Yeah, so I just took like a big block, like this guy here.
Okay. Ooh.
Just stamped it. So I brushed it with a little bit of black airbrush color right along with my I like to use a larger flat brush for that, and just brush some black airbrush over it, stamp it onto my wafer, and then just build it the same way.
John
that's
says
a totally different fun look.
John says it's so cool.
So my John?
Yeah, he has the same last name. I hope it's him. He's watching you. He's probably like, where is she?
Oh, wow.
That was the nice husband, by the way, who got her the cheater.
My cheater, I'm a little intimidated by, but I'm so excited to try it.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. You're gonna call me up and say, "Oh my gosh, you were right. It is so easy."
If at the end you find like this back part is too long or it's like in the way a bit, it's really easy to trim that off. This one's pretty short and flat, but every once in a while you'll get like a longer, like kind of a funky stem that was connected to that toothpick. So just you can snip it right off. And now we'll go to our smart sheet. Is that cool?
That's awesome. And John did take credit for being the nice husband.
He's that John. Oh, okay. He's that really cute one. Okay.
That John. Oh my gosh, you guys are cracking me up.
All right, this is the smart sheet. It totally looks like watercolor paper to me. So see that, I'm not sure if you can see that, the tooth of it, but there's like a really nice texture. And then the smooth side is really cool too. I like that side for different things, but for the flowers, I feel like it gives it this like velvety rose petal kind of a finish when I work on the rough side again. So again, I just cut these in different random little petal like shapes. So this one's I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. Again, I'm not gonna use paper potion on this. I'm
Okay.
going to use so really I just use the paper potion on the wafer single petals
Ooh, wait till you try it
as
on
far as
the
these.
smart sheets.
Yeah, I used it on the smart sheet and I liked it for
You
different
have to,
things, but for the
yeah,
petals, I was like, I liked it to get a little bit more of a body that I can cup a little bit. But yeah, I'm still,
gotcha.
I don't know, I'm still playing.
You have to use more paper potion and let it absorb
Oh,
more on the smart sheets.
yeah, I bet, because it's like a little sponge, it has so much more thickness to it,
Yes.
which I love. It's such a cool texture. On this one, so I have my little petals here, and I'm going to use my Magugu stick, and so that has that little shovel side on it, and but instead of the boo boo stick that has like that little kind of more not as sharp end.
You
I
called it a boo-boo stick?
Yeah, do you remember the boo boo sticks? They're the yellow ones. Those like little, it's like this side plus like a, I just don't use it anymore because I was always like, I want a pointy side plus that little scraper side. So I Frankenstein this little bad boy and I use
Awesome.
my Magugu stick, right?
Love it.
So I use that really sharp side here. And I'm gonna get a little violent with my petal here. And I'm gonna hold like the little pointy side of my petal and I'm gonna dig into my petal and just really scrape into it. I'm not trying to break through, but if I break through every once in a while, I'm not too mad about it. It kind of gives it that really natural look, but definitely not cutting through, just giving it a lot of little stripy scrapes along that shape.
You got some cool things on your website. I was just going to go get the link for the Magoo stick. And I'm like, ooh, look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of stuff. It's really stuff I use all the time, but they're my favorites, So
There you go.
and so there's some texture to it. And it's like veining, the petal. It's putting in some little, and this really does the work of coloring the petal because all of our color is going to settle on the petal, but settle extra into those divots that I'm making. So instead of like painting striations or kind of, really putting a lot of detail on the petal, these little scrapes are going to do the work for me. So I'm letting texture kind of do the work. So I have my little petals, and it's very similar to what we did with our wafer. And again, use my palette of colors.
You're showing me things I've never seen. I know Jesse and Riley's probably like, ooh. Of course, knowing her, she's seen it. She's seen everything.
Sometimes I do things and then people say, you're doing that wrong. And I'm like, okay.
No, everybody does things different. I think it's so cool. That's why I like these
Yeah.
lives. You learn so much. I mean, we've seen so many people do flowers and they do them all differently and get different results.
Yeah.
And this is awesome.
Good. Yeah. Wrong, different, it's
No,
up to interpretation.
no, it's not wrong at all. I think this is great. And I bet you there's a lot of people on here going, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. I
Yeah, I hope
guarantee
so.
you.
It's, when you
Yeah,
play, you can find different, ways to do stuff. I like seeing different ways. I
me
don't know
too.
that there is a wrong necessarily.
No.
So I'm going to take that moss again. I love the moss. So again, just putting that on the bottom of the petal and softening with some water. I'm using water again.
So Emily says she does have a ton of stuff. She says, there goes that modesty again.
I don't know if I don't.
It's awesome. It's okay. But just so everybody knows, if you don't know Arty. She is amazing. She's got great talent. She's a great communicator and a lot to offer. So check out her website and the things that she does, because she will never tell you this. Okay?
I am so cool. I can't tell you how
go.
cool I am.
She is.
I'm amazing.
You are. You are. Congratulations on saying that. I know, I couldn't do that either.
Some days I think I'm pretty smart, but most of the time I feel like like we were talking, I have to reteach myself the same things every day. I'm like, how did I do that? What am I doing?
Yeah.
It's like we're experimenting every single day, and I feel like I'm never going to be an expert. I'm just learning every single day, which I'd much rather learn every day than just be stagnant.
Yeah, everybody's saying you're a special teacher, you're great. See, I told you, and you're getting tons of hearts. So.
Hearts right back at you guys. We have such a great community, I tell you what.
I know.
They're the best.
I know. What an amazing, can you imagine? I write an email, it goes up to my list every week. And
I love it.
Today was about these birds flying and the responsibilities that they have versus what we have, and how awesome it is that our jobs, or your jobs actually, are to make things that make people smile. And my job is to make sure you have those things to make the things to make people smile.
I just read that. I love that.
Yeah. Oh,
you're an enabler. You are an enabler.
Well, some people think that's bad.
I mean, enabler can be bad. You're not enabling us to, do drugs. You're enabling us to create
just sugar. Crystal sugar.
Yeah.
Emily loves the way you teach. I love it too. I love watching you go.
It's just, I feel like I'm figuring it out as I learn every single time I decorate. And so that's why it's always funny. I feel like rather than teaching, I feel like we're in this together. We're figuring this out as we go together. This time I kind of did a more toned down pink. So I added some of that black, just so you can see that what you will find when you do it on the Smart Sheet is it takes the color differently than the Wafer does. So you'll find that it can be really bold really fast, which can be great if you're looking for a really bold colored petal. If you're not, you really need to tone it down with like the mauve or a black or a brown to bring the color down to earth, right? Because it'll really be super bright. And a very trendy look with petals and with florals, especially in weddings, is like a very like neutral, like barely a blush. So to get that, you want to be very watered down, very toned down with some graying of the color.
So, Jackie wanted to know what palette of paints you're using.
Yeah. So this is my little Arty McGoo palette. And these are kind of the primaries here that I put in. You can put in whatever colors you like or you prefer. I have a lot of favorite colors, so I actually split these wells into two, just so I can fit in more of my favorite colors. So each, this is a moss, this is a gold, this is a different green here. This is like a laurel green. So I have I think 5 different greens here going into the turquoise and that. But if you just have, 20 favorite colors, then each one can have its own well, just depending. You can set it up with different, however you like it. You can have a whole, like, this is my neutral palette, or this is my, all Chef Master color palettes, just depending on what you prefer. And again, I do like to use it dry. So I'll just fill my wells. It doesn't take a lot. I don't like fill it full of color. It's really a very thin layer of color. Let it dry. I usually put it into a box with a lid on it so that it doesn't get anything stuck to it while it's wet. Because I don't want to close it, because that would just combine all the colors. It would drip all together. So you want to let them all dry in a closed container. And then it's really convenient to shut, keeps out lint or cat hair. Because if you have a palette, before I had a closed palette, I would have to wash off, a plate like every time I wanted to paint. This way I just open up and I can paint close it and I'm done.
I love
So it's just
that.
a super convenient way to, if you paint a lot, you need a closable palette. And so that it's just super convenient. So you see how these petals have really, it's just taken on the color really nicely in those little scrapes. So it did the striations for me. I didn't have to paint those on, and it gives it a really nice natural look to the petal. It's so pretty. It feels like a petal. Like it literally feels like a petal. It's
I love that look.
and that's without
Can,
paper potion. It just feels like a petal working with water and
yeah. Can you bring it up closer to the camera for a minute? Oh, did you get stuck? She's holding everything really still right now. She's probably laughing at me saying this, but she's stuck. If you wait just a second, it usually catches up. So who can you guys hear? Me? Are you with us, or did we am I still? Let's see. Could be me. Let's see who's still. Let's see. There we go. I'm still on. Okay. All right, they're going to bring me up on the screen. We lost her. Let's see how long she froze, and then she's kind of gone. So, all right. So we can chat again. How exciting is that? She should come right back. So thank you for the feedback, guys. So yeah, remind me at the end, because she does have, somebody mentioned classes. Tomorrow I know CookieCon opens for classes. And so we got to hear what she's up to there. So I love that palette that she's shown. You guys are messaging quick, so I'm like trying to read everything. Bear with us, so you can see what she does with that. Yeah, it could be the wet. Well, you're through, John. So now that John knows this, then yeah, she'll know that she's off, because sometimes it takes people a few minutes to realize they're not on anymore. So thank you, John. Yeah, they're in California. They have lots of weather issues, unfortunately. So let's see what's being said to me. Hold on one second. Let's see. Yep. Okay, she's aware, but I'm sure John told her, which is good too. She'll be right back on. Hopefully her phone didn't die. If not, John, we're using your phone. Wait, you're in Seattle? Oh, you're not there. All right, so Harriet, the codes right now are good for 1 week, till next Tuesday. For the sheets, the icing sheets that I talked about earlier, there's a sale going on that ends tonight, and that actually ends today. So if it's something that you want, please message me. There she is.
Hey. Oh my
So wait, John's in Seattle and you're in California.
Yeah,
Did you kick him out?
Never. He's up there visiting his parents. He missed his mom and dad. They moved up there. So I'm not sure when I kicked off. I know it got real quiet. I was like, I'm feeling alone. But did I talk about this yet?
Yeah, you talked about it. Yeah, but okay, so we can't see what you're doing. The camera is upside down now, but that's okay. We can follow you, but you are working off screen.
Okay, let's see. Is that better?
Yeah, there we go. Don't move it. Leave it right there. I think that's good. Okay, your fingernails were in it, so you may have to kind of turn it like you did before, so that you kind of push the top down. Now you're back up to you. Hi.
It's me. And then
your
down
hair's
this
different.
way. Yeah, I clipped it out of my way.
Okay, so yeah, you're upside down, but we follow that pretty well. The problem is that it needs to be turned a little bit.
Move it.
Yeah.
Okay, what
I
if
like to move it. Woo. Okay. Well.
Okay, I'm gonna try it this way. Let's see if that
right
is that my hands down to the bottom.
Yeah, just kind of move it so the part of the phone that's away from you goes down a little bit. The closest to you goes up a little bit, just a teeny bit.
That way?
Yeah. Teeny bit more. Okay, that's good. Stop. Good. Stop. Perfect. Yay. Okay.
I know the little delay. I'm like, oh, okay.
I can see it live and I can see the delay. So.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, interesting. So I have a little bit of little black airbrush color in my toothbrush. That again, not a multi-purpose thing, just for cookies. I'm not gonna go brush my teeth with this later. And I'm just dragging my Magugu stick towards myself to the bristles so that I'm putting freckles on the petal and not on my face. I already have those on my face. Um, I always have to think about it every time I do it because I'm like, I don't want this to flick on my face. I want it to flick this way. So pull towards yourself. And that just gives it that really random little speckling of color on your
Oh, yeah.
petals.
You can see that well. That's awesome.
And that's fun. And you see the little cuts have taken that color just a little bit darker. And so it gives it that look that there's little veins in the petal.
I love that.
It really feels like a petal. It looks like a petal. And as a whole, you know, several petals together, it just looks like a bundle of potpourri, little petals that you've pulled off your flowers.
Yeah, so look, hold it back in the center. So you can tell the smart sheets are on the top and the wafers on the bottom, and they have a very different look. So there's a difference for you right there.
So these are wafer.
Yep. The darker ones.
These are the smart. And I like both looks. It just depends on, you know, what kind of petal you're looking for, what kind of finish you're looking for.
I like these techniques a lot.
Yeah, I think as a mix of you know, smart plus the wafer, I think it just looks so pretty. You know, and I do only one side of it because as you can do, especially on the smart sheet, you can do both sides of the petals, especially, but you really don't need to, especially if you're going to end up putting it on a cake or a cupcake or a cookie, of course. It just looks so pretty and natural. And there's kind of a little bit of both. And then, of course, our little built one. That's pretty much, that's how you do it. I mean, it's so simple, but really effective, you know?
It is. And they like both looks, and you're getting all these hearts. You're gonna have to go back and see all these things because I'm sure I missed some questions. If I did, re-ask them now because it would help because I'm kind of watching in both places. Those are so pretty.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of work for them, you know. And I love it's like the mix of the really pale with some of these really bold ones. I think it looks really nice, you know.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. It really is.
So for those red ones, obviously just straight red, but I found the key to making those to look really realistic. So this is the Smart Sheet. Mm-hmm. And so brushing it with red, and I made it a little, you know, ombre. So going from the darkest to the lightest towards the center worked really well. But then adding, do you know that the mauve color is really like a very grayed out from AmeriColor? It's a funky color when you're using it to color your icing, but as a toner, when you paint, it's really nice. So giving it those like slightly darker edges really was effective on that. So if you're looking for a use for your mauve, because it's a funny color, this is a good one.
Mauve, what do you do with mauve? This is what you do.
For real.
Yeah.
And this one, it kind of broke through right here. See where my Magugu stick broke through? I'm in love with that. I love it. Right? It looks like somebody pulled it off and their fingernail bit into the you know, the little petal a little bit.
It's a bug. A bug ate through the petal. It's normal.
Right.
It looks real, you know?
Yeah. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah,
and then the leaves. I didn't even talk about leaves at all, but I did make some leaves. I made some with wafer and with the smart. And again, I liked both of them for different reasons, but it was definitely easier to make the leaves with the smart sheet. I felt like the wafer leaves curled up just a ton, where obviously the smart sheet doesn't do that, and you can have a little more control over it. So, and that's leaves always really sell it, you know, like a bunch of flowers together. The leaves, like, just you gotta have leaves. It looks so realistic, you know. Or my interpretation of
yeah, but those look so real. Oh my gosh, they're just beautiful. the way you're arranging them.
And this is where, yeah, you get to use your little flower arranging idea,
So
little
pretty.
skills, and it's so fun. So then another little, I'm like, oh, and then let's do this now. So I have just a blank cookie, and I just made this out of Smart Sheet, this little,
Mhm.
Banner, kind of a ribbon. He loves me, he loves me not. It'd be super fun, if you were to do a cookie set and just kind of play with that, sprinkle on some of your petals onto the cookie. It was
Oh my gosh.
simply, just really pretty. And
Love it.
that's what I would do.
I just want to eat the cookie. That's always